Awesome.
Hey.
Hey, great. I can hear you. That's good too. So welcome back, everybody. If you're just joining us, we are in the middle of a mindful approach to crisis summit. And we started off with creative mindfulness and mindful tips for parents. And now really excited to be joined by Calvin. We've been in touch for a while now, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. It's been some time, a few years at least. I've
Mm.
been in and out of your Museum of Happiness, and we've been exchanging a few message online and things.
Yeah. And when you did our Teach Mindfulness program, was that your kind of first time getting into mindfulness, or have you been doing it for a while before then?
Yeah, so I've been sort of mindful. I had a mindful awareness before, and I've been practicing mindfulness meditation for some time. But from a teaching perspective and really taking a deep dive, doing your course was my sort of first adventure into really bolting mindfulness onto the work that I do, which is about communication really and helping people to tell their story and what have you.
Okay. You've literally been there and got the T-shirt. I see.
That's my key message for today. So it's going to be burnt into everyone's minds. Yeah.
I like that. It's really wonderful. It's so simple. Simple things are the best, aren't they?
Absolutely. Yeah. I have no slides. I'll just be just saying, oh, by the way, look at my shirt.
When you have your PowerPoint slides crash, just put it on your T-shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You'd never forget it then.
Yeah, 10 slides, that might be a bit too small.
Well, I mean, if the tattoo shops are open, I was thinking about doing one over but unfortunately they're closed.
And so, so you kind of you're into communication a lot. I mean, how did you get into the whole communication thing?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been coaching people to tell their story for some time, and really finding their story and sharing it in a most impactful way for them, whether that's in their business or whether that's in their corporate life or what have you. But what I found interesting, I've been doing that for about 5 years now. What I found interesting about that was with doing the story work, there was a kind of a discovery process that was happening with people where they're having to go in and find out what their story is because not everybody comes with a kind of right, I know exactly everything what I'm going to say and what I'm about. A lot of people go, well, I actually don't know what my story is, and how do I communicate that. So it kind of started out as a I'll help you to tell your story, and then it became much more of a how to help you find your story. And as that evolved with my own sort of parallel of doing the mindfulness as well, I realized that that was a really helpful tool to bolt onto our communication and also to discover the story. You know, I think it was I saw something online the other day with Neil deGrasse Tyson, this astrophysicist or something in America, and he was saying, "Oh, there are these three kinds of truth. You know, there's the personal truth, political truth, and objective truth." And with the story work, I find it quite interesting. The personal truth, that's your story. You know, the personal truth is your story. The objective truth is the truth. And I think that mindfulness is very helpful to being able to distinguish between the two and create that space between the two. So that's how it sort of evolved with time.
But then, how did you get into communication in the first place? Is it something you've always been into, or what?
Yeah, so I was in the corporate life before, and part of my job was to do presentations and to communicate ideas and pitch things to the board and all this kind of stuff. Um, a bit of networking and all that stuff came with it. And so I think just as a basic skill, communication was part of my sort of repertoire, if you like. It evolved with time into some public speaking, which originally started as some fun, actually. Um, but the evolution of the story came when I was figuring out my own story and what does my whole story mean and what is that all about, which inevitably comes out of crisis or big challenge anyway, where you're faced with these existential questions. Who the hell am I? What is my life all about? And then the mindfulness element then came into that, and I wanted to get much deeper into that, which is why I came to you.
I see.
Yeah.
And then did you share specific mindful practices with your clients and the people you worked with? Do you meditations and stuff?
Yeah. So for people who are open to it,
Yeah.
I encourage that. I think we have people who are very open to exploring new ways of doing things, and it's very much a tool I think is helpful for people to still the mind, to really figure out which voice is speaking inside. All these multiple narrators,
Right.
and it's like, which voice is speaking inside right now, and which one do I want to choose, and which one do I want to massage?
Thank you very much.
Exactly.
I love it. Fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
Is there something that you want to share now with our community?
Yeah, totally. So I want to talk today specifically about what I call the seeds of mindful communication.
Ooh,
and how we can plant those seeds. But before I do, I think it'd be helpful to sort of address one of the questions first and foremost, which is, well, what is communication? What is that? People often describe communication as the sharing of ideas, expressing your thoughts and your feelings. We can extend that and say it's a two-way street. Communication goes two ways. But there's something I heard recently which really got me thinking about what it means to people to communicate, and how communication can be seen as, I suppose, a collaborative effort. It's a joint project that happens between people where we do our own input, or we have our own work that we do, but we're not entirely in control of the outcome. So communication for me is very much, yes, absolutely sharing thoughts and ideas, knowing what it is you want to get across. It's about receiving information as well, but it's about recognizing that you can only do your bit. I don't know if how many people are from London who are tuned in, but London Bridge is a perfect example of the Shard, right? The Shard, beautiful skyscraper. So there's a friend of mine actually who lives nearby. And when that building was being built, I think the community in Bermondsey were thinking, okay, well, we need to make sure we become part of this whole project. I think there was a bit of concern about the over commercialization of the area and the community getting forgotten, right? So this new project called The Shared was created.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's fantastic, actually. And look it up if you haven't come across it before. So this thing called The Shared was a community project where this sculptor decided anybody in the community can come into an open sculpting workshop and contribute a singular piece to this project. What they did was they all carved out whatever they fancied, and then this thing built onto each other to create a monument, towering monument. This monument, in the shadow of the Shard, actually lines up with the building, and it's called the Shared to represent this community project. The reason why I'm saying that is because for me, it sort of represents this idea that we can go into something completely open, contribute in our own way, a unique expression, and the outcome is totally out of our control. And actually, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to show you a very quick picture of the Shared.
I was itching to Google it. I'm like, be mindful, don't Google it.
So can you allow me to share?
Oh, yeah.
Or
Give me the thing, yeah.
I'm just going to I've got a picture here that I want to show you because it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So share screen. And where is it? It is here. Okay. So oh, that's my doodle from I wanted to show you that as well, actually. That's my doodle from Tanja's
quite similar to mine.
yeah. I went off the page a bit. But here's the Shared. Here it is.
Whoa.
And that is in the shadow of the shard. And if you look, it lines up just perfectly. If you look off the top of the sculpture, it
Mm.
lines up perfectly with the shard.
Oh my God. How far? That looks quite far away from the shard, though.
It's literally a 5 minute walk from London Bridge Station.
Oh wow. You're a fast walker.
so, so
Like about 5 miles
literally,
away.
no, honestly, it's 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes, honestly. So, but what I wanted to say was that, we this communication is we contribute our own piece, and the output or the outcome can be quite monumental depending on what sort of attitude we bring, which is why I think the mindful attitude is the important element to help us to realize a different outcome, something quite profound. So mindful communication then is bringing that essence of mindfulness, the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. And how often do we actually do that? And particularly in times of crisis when, I'm going to use a word that has never been used for the whole year, and that word is unprecedented. I think it's probably like second most used on the internet after COVID. But we are of course, as we know, in these unprecedented times. And if we are able to harness this current opportunity that we have to bring mindfulness to our communication, then we really, as Asha said, we really have a lot to seize in this moment, a lot of opportunity. So what are the seeds of mindful communication? Well, there are three things I want to share. But before we even move into the seeds, I just want to talk about the context around which the seeds should be planted, or the soil. I like to call the soil that we plant the seeds in.
I love that.
The soil that we are planting the seeds in to create this nurturing environment is presence. And we need to bring an element of presence to our communication in order to really have the seeds flourish. So what is presence? What is presence? Well, mindfulness in the sense of having that awareness, as we so often recite, that the awareness that arises from paying attention, we can consider presence to be the sustaining of that awareness throughout our communication. Or we could consider presence just generally as a point to be the sustaining of that awareness generally. But as it applies to communication, and we're engaging with another person, our partner, and I say our partner as our partner could be whoever we're speaking to, our child, our friend, our husband, wife, doesn't matter. However we're communicating with them, are we bringing presence? Are we bringing presence to that engagement? So the presence is the nurturing soil for which we can then insert the seeds of mindful communication. So just a quick one, actually. So in crisis, right? In crisis, we have all of these pressures that are impacting on us from outside a lot of the time, as we are today. And the challenge is to respond in a way that doesn't agitate or impact people around us negatively, right? But if it's impacting and affecting us negatively, then how do we bring that presence in the first place? So this is why the mindful practice of meditation is so essential to bring in the presence. Interestingly, as a side note, I just came back from South Africa. Literally, I just made it.
What? Just
Just
now?
made it. Like literally before the lockdown happened. So
Oh,
the lockdown happened in South Africa 3 weeks ago. And I was meant to be there until last week. And then everything got changed because of the lockdown. So I just managed to escape
wow.
barely, which is, I'll tell you, if we do another talk, I'll tell you a whole story about that. But,
Okay.
but
Oh my God.
the
Yeah.
funny thing is, so I was on a lodge called Ukatula. And anyway, my fascination about the place was South Africa as a place just generally, just opened my mind to all these things. And I discovered there was a guy in South Africa, he's passed away now, a guy called Lawrence Anthony, and he had a lodge called Tula Tula. And in Tula Tula, he had rescued this herd of wild elephants, right? This herd of wild elephants, which were running rogue and causing all of this destruction because their relationship with human beings was terrible. And we basically abused these elephants. And he saved these elephants, and it was a huge risk to his company. But he had to essentially furlough, which is another popular word, all of these people, all of these people.
Use of that word.
I don't think we've ever heard that word in the UK actually, until now.
No, actually,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. So yeah, he had to get rid of all of his staff anyway, because the elephants were so agitated by people, and he camped out by these elephants next to their what they call the boma, which was essentially an enclosure, and he stayed there for weeks on end. And beyond a point of exasperation, or just about, he got a breakthrough, right? He was asked, and his colleague, well, what did you do? What was it that was so special about you and what you did that got you to connect with these elephants? And he said, well, I just had to be present there. I had to be present with them. And through the presence that we bring, we are able to communicate with the beast, or address the elephant in the room, if you want to call it that. Because there is one in the crisis, right? There is a big thing that's there that can be quite wild and temperamental, that arises and gets into our communication, or in between people when we're trying to communicate. So the key is to bring that presence to our engagements. How we do that is to, of course, as we know, embed a practice of mindful meditation. And then once we're able to create that presence, we're nurturing the soil, and then we can start planting the seeds. So the first seed that I want to talk about is attitude. Specifically mindful attitudes. We know now that there are 9 mindful attitudes that we generally accept. And I just want to touch on each one just very briefly to say how I think they are relevant and apply specifically to communication. So we know that beginner's mind is this attitude of curiosity, and how we look at things with a new lens, if you want to say, or erase our preconceived ideas of what we've had, of what we're witnessing, and just come with a fresh, complete, like a baby would see the world. The benefit that has to the communication is it allows us to potentially see the partner's perspective, or see how or maybe even interpret the way we're looking at things from a new perspective. So I think this idea of bringing, when somebody is really getting on your nerves, of course we know it's not really them, it's you feeling agitated. If we have a decision point to say, what kind of attitude do I want to bring to this? We bring a beginner's mind attitude, then maybe we can have a new perspective of this person and what they're feeling. Then we have patience, the idea to not just be able to wait, but to be okay with waiting, to be at ease in the waiting. And if we're able to bring that patience to our communication with a person, then we allow them to say what they want to say in their own time. We don't need to tell them, oh, just hurry up, or, having those thoughts. Shut up now. Okay, all right, I've heard it. I just want to switch off. If we have an attitude of patience, then we allow people to express. The third one we know is trust. And trust is, by the way, these are in no particular order. Trust is very much about trusting our own innate wisdom and our own feelings and experiences. I think where that is very helpful in communication is it allows us to trust that whatever they're experiencing is equally valid. Then we know that there's non-striving. How about we approach this conversation that we're having now with no goal whatsoever, and actually be completely relaxed about it? Is that possible to have in communication at home right now with somebody who's in another room getting stressed out with how much work they have to do or not do, getting worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. Are we going to meet the bills? Maybe we can actually just have a conversation with no goal at all. There's no outcome desired here. Let's just talk. What about non-judging? This idea of witnessing events and not placing a value judgment on it. Can we do that in our communication to the people that we're engaging with, our partners, children, whoever? Can we listen in a non-judgmental way? And can we really just appreciate that whatever it is what it is? You know? And then there's acceptance, which is quite helpful, because then if we're not judging, it's easier to accept. We just accept and take it for what it is. Gratitude. Focusing on the good qualities, those things that we're grateful for, the good qualities of whatever is taking place, engenders a level of warmth and appreciation for the person that we're speaking to. And then, of course, there's generosity. What more generous thing can you do for a person than to give them your time, to give them your ear, than to listen to them? And then the last one is letting go. Letting go of everything that you've got your teeth stuck into. Am I holding on to what was said yesterday? Have I been thinking too much about what I'm going to say next? I have an idea of what that person means. What if we let everything go? Can we actually have a free stream of mindfulness-based conversation? So I just wanted to touch on those very quickly as the first C, the attitude that we bring. The reason I want to talk about all of the attitudes is because we can choose any of them. You know, please, if anyone is listening who wants to apply an attitude, take any one. We don't need to rehearse the whole list, nor do we need to place them in any hierarchical order. What we really do need to be able to say is, whatever resonates with you out of this talk, just take that. If it's just one thing, that's fine. If it's just be present, that's fine too. So the second thing is, the second seed is to listen deeply. So we want to differentiate first and foremost the difference between hearing, listening, and then listening deeply. Hearing, there are sounds hitting the ears, the brain is able to register them, but you're not paying attention. I can hear a bus going by just now, and only now have I just really put my attention on it. And listening, then you're putting your attention there, and you're really able to then focus your mind onto listening. Well, the deep listening aspect comes in. Well, okay, so how much attention am I paying to what's going on within me? What feelings and sensations and what am I experiencing in myself as I communicate? Because people have triggers, don't they? And somebody will say something to them, you know. Imagine someone says something about you and then something's, you know, there's a reaction going off in you. Are you able to listen to yourself and also listen to the other person simultaneously? The beautiful thing.
Perfectly mindful all the time.
By the way, nice beard.
Lockdown's having an effect on my ability to get the razor thing.
So this bringing this awareness to our sensations, our bodily sensations, and having that presence while we're communicating will help us to listen much deeper. Not only does it help us to hear and focus on what's being said, but we're then able to also figure out, and a lot of times, what's not being said as well. So the deep listening really helps us to get beneath the surface quite a bit.
So is it about not just listening with your ears, but all the communication senses in a way?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's bringing everything together to really feel what is being said, not just what is being heard. And this is a lot to do with us as the listener as it is to do with the speaker.
I just
The,
had an idea. Sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah.
another way of listening, you could call it sensational listening. Because
You're a sensational listener.
because you're using all your senses, right? And you really
Yeah, I like that. I like that. It's another book idea right there.
listen. No, I'm sensational. It's actually a good one. It's
I
funny, but
think I like it. I like it. Yeah, it's certainly more catchy than some of the other things we've heard around about listening. But certainly, yeah. I mean, bringing these senses into play help us to listen much more deeply. We have to create the presence and sustain the awareness, which is the presence, for that to take place. So we'll see that throughout this entire movement from listening, from intention, from attention, and so on, we have to have the presence there, which is the nurturing soil to the seeds. And then the third thing is what I like to call compassionate expression. How to express yourself compassionately to your partner. Now, this is a very difficult one for people who are in challenge because they're constantly being triggered by their own worries about the future, things of the past. Everything is just happening all at once, right? And it's really affecting people's ability to express compassionately. So how do we check within ourselves whether our expression is compassionate or not? I think there are two questions that are often useful to ask, and one of them is it timely? What I'm about to say, is this the right time to express what I'm about to say? Am I in earshot of the kids? Am I angry? Are they angry? Are they sad? And that kind of thing. And then the second question is it constructive? Does it build the person up? Does it help in any way to make things better? Because so often we can use our words to be destructive. You know, words have the power to heal, but they also have the power to tear down or to destroy. So the three seeds then are what attitude are we going to bring? So we have an intention around that. The second seed is listen deeply. The third seed is express yourself compassionately, or if you want to just say compassionate expression. Those things, those three things, we put them together, they can be very helpful to helping us create a new habit of mindful communication. And it's quite interesting to know that, you know, when you throw a stone into the water and then you watch the ripples, the impact point of that stone is only as big as the stone. But yet the ripples, they just go and they go and they go and they go. And so all you do really need is a small stone to change the surface, and the effect can, with time, be quite significant.
Wow, that's a really good analogy.
It just came to me now, actually, as I was as I was talking to you. So I was going to say something completely different. But
That's an example of mindful communication, actually. I mean, you can talk about that, isn't it? Because you're being in the moment and you're being alive to the moment and sharing what comes to mind that's useful.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. So really be feeling that out. And I just want to say one more thing, you know, because communication is so powerful in terms of its ability to heal and transform. You know, I want to just share one quick story of two guys. One guy should have hated this other guy with an absolute passion. Okay. I mean, in fact, he did originally because of how his whole life and his whole worldview, his personal truth, as we heard in the beginning, was so affected by this other person. Now, these people were confined. They were in lockdown, but they weren't in lockdown for any short period like us. They were in lockdown for a huge amount of years together in prison. And something happened when to make these guys change their attitude. Someone threw a stone, and the ripples then rippled out. And with time, their relationship began to change. Now, the interesting thing about these two guys is that they brought an attitude, an intention to their communication. And it only started with one person who had to make that decision. One person made that decision to just chisel something very slightly differently into their part of the shared. And then the whole monument changed at the end. So these two people I'm talking about, by the way, a man called Christo Brand, who is Nelson Mandela's prison guard.
Wow.
And the other guy, of course, is Nelson Mandela.
Nice.
And they went on to change history, as we know, because Nelson Mandela has completely revolutionized and helped to move South Africa forward into a new era of healing, just from bringing a certain attitude and intention to the way he wanted to communicate with this guy. And this guy, Christo Brand, got involved in the government process. He was at the table when they were creating their new constitution. The point here is that communication has the ability to heal and transform, and as he said it, to really build understanding. So understanding is one of the outcomes here, and it is a happening. It's not something you do. Understanding is a happening. Understanding just happens. So with mindful communication, we do have
because you just got cut off there when you were talking about the happening thing. Can you just say that again?
So no, what I was saying was that Christo Brand has said himself that there was an understanding between him and Nelson Mandela. And what I'm saying is that with mindful communication, there's an understanding that can be realized. And it's not something that you do actively. You can't do understanding, but you can understand. Understanding is a happening. So with mindful communication, I think we do have the ability to, when we create the nurturing environment, plant the seeds, we do have to a potential to create a ripple that can transcend quite significant boundaries. And this is why it's so powerful as a tool, particularly in challenge. So those are the points about mindful communication I wanted to share. And the main thing, if you're going to take one thing away, is be present. Be present.
Yeah. Well, thank you for communicating it so clearly. Even I could understand it, which is brilliant. And I love this analogy about the soil being the mindfulness. In fact, Tanya was talking about this too. She said, mindfulness is like the first step, and we really need that as the basis on which to build from. And for her, it was the soil for creativity to come forth. And now you're saying it's the soil, but it's for bringing the mindful attitudes in, the deep listening and the compassionate expression. So no, you communicate very, very clearly. I love that. Is there,
thank you.
while we're chatting, if anybody has any questions for Calvin, please feel free to type it in, and we've still got a few minutes to be able to share that. Did you have any practices that you wanted to share at all, or any mindful exercises or anything like that while we're waiting?
Yeah. What I want to do is I want to explore the idea of bringing presence. So how to get us into nowness. And I just want listeners to sort of imagine you are in the middle of a conversation and you're not feeling terribly present. So we're going to do like an open eye meditation, and it'll just be momentary. But I want you to feel what it's like to bring ourselves back into present moment sensory awareness right in the middle of awakened state. I often say it'd be pretty rude to say to somebody, excuse me a minute, I'm just going to go into full lotus and close your eyes and go into a deep meditation.
Excuse me, I'm being mindful. Can you stop this? I'm trying to do some mindful communication here.
So you happy for you to keep your eyes open.
Okay.
And then first of all, just bring attention to your breath straight away. Just notice your natural breathing rhythm. As you do that, just feel if there's sort of any tension in your body lurking anywhere. And as you start to relax, keep a gentle alertness, a calm alertness. And as you begin to move through your breathing cycles, you'll start to notice different parts of your body come into your focus. You might notice it's the rising and falling of your chest or stomach. You might notice some sensations where you're sitting, seat of your pants. You might notice your hands or forearms in contact with the desk. Whatever your sensations that you're feeling right now, just be aware of those wherever they might be as you move through the whole body. Is there anything really coming to your attention in your body where you feel any tension, any tightness, any tickling sensations, any fizzing, any knots, wherever you might feel that there's somewhere in your body? Just be aware. And now just wherever that might be, bring some kind, compassionate attention to it. If you think that that part of your body would appreciate some gentle loving kindness. And as you create the space for that to just dissolve, you can feel yourself being fully present and anchored in now. And you are able to continue engaging in whatever engagement that might be, whoever it might be with a degree more spaciousness and that bit more presence to listen deeper, to bring your mindful attitudes, and to express more compassionately. And that's it. So the thing about this exercise really is this is something to dip in and out of when we're in the middle of a communication, just when we feel our discursive mind doing its thing. If there's an elephant in the room somewhere, then we know how to bring the presence back. Now, of course, it would be helpful to have some experience in the full body scan meditation. And if you haven't had that experience, then you're more than welcome to download one of my meditations or get one from Shamash or wherever the source of meditations are for you, so that we know how to go through the body in a mindful way.
Wonderful, wonderful. You know what? One of the interesting things that I found about what you just the thing you just guided was having my eyes open, because I'm so used to having my eyes closed. I had to actually fight with my eyelids a few times. Maybe I'm a bit tired as well. But the
I
interesting
thought I was
thing
boring you.
You're the one communicating that, not me. Maybe you're hypnotizing me. But the interesting thing is that as we got towards the end, that stopped happening, and it reminded me it's important to practice mindfulness with eyes open, because of when we're communicating, we're not talking to our partners or friends or family with our eyes closed. They're always open when we're talking to them. And if we've not practiced mindfulness with eyes open, then it's not going to trigger that, is it? So that's an important one, I think, that we don't practice mindfulness enough, or mindful meditation with our eyes open, I reckon.
Yeah, I think it's a great observation. The thing is we're not trying to achieve a transcendent state here. So we should certainly have, in my mind, mindful meditation practice where we're closing our eyes, wherever in the day we decide to do that for us. But then, of course, we're now talking about bringing presence to our communication. And bringing presence to our communication requires us being present and being mindful in a sustained way. And that's what gives us the presence. So to be able to do that in waking life, if you want to call it that, in your everyday activities, well, that's when our eyes are always open. So it's quite helpful to be able to tune in with our eyes open to recreate that presence for whatever the activity might be. And in this case, that's communication.
Yeah. Cool. So does anybody else have any questions? I think you explained it so well that our mind is blown. We don't know what to do. Or people are saying, thanks, great session. Thanks, Calvin. Really enjoyed the talk a lot. Thank you very much. Lots to try out at work. And Karen says a very revolutionary Buddhist practice for modern times of chanting requires that we keep our eyes open in order to be fully awake. So yeah, there are certainly Buddhist practices where people keep their eyes open or they cast their eyes downwards.
Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, yeah.
The ones that are kind of in evidence-based, they tend to be more with eyes closed actually. And I'm sure it's time now to start practicing more of those exercises with eyes open as well. So to finish, Calvin, how can people get in touch with you and communicate with you and connect with your, like if they want to try your body scan or maybe come to your talks or workshops or whatever?
Easiest way, go straight to my website, www.calvinniles.com. All the information about my services are on there. If you go out to my website and sign up, you'll also get a free body scan meditation, which I've included specifically for anyone who is attending today, and a free bonus gift as well. But also anywhere on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just do Calvin Niles, and you should find my big head somewhere in in a picture.
If you want to buy this T-shirt, where did you get that from?
Well, actually, this was a one-off, but I might be able to provide you some.
Maybe you need to get into the T-shirt business.
This was part of another project, actually, and I did probably, I don't know, about 5 of them or something as gifts for people, and I kept one for myself. But yeah, happy to provide anything you need that helps you to maintain your presence.
So you gave yourself the present of a T-shirt saying "Be present."
Absolutely. The T-shirt is talking to itself.
That's so deep and that's sensational.
It's quite philosophical, right?
Yeah. But I love that. No, it's a really good T-shirt, actually. I think, yeah. I will get one. I'll get in contact.
Brilliant.
These little reminders actually do make a difference, so really appreciate it. So thanks a lot for sharing today. Really, you prepared it so beautifully, explained it so well, and everyone seems to have enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Great. Glad it was a pleasure to be on with you.
Cool. Wonderful. So yeah, we'll be in touch, and I'll see you again soon, I'm sure. And hopefully some of our audience will be in touch with you and working with you, learning more about communicating too. You said your website has other services. Can you share a little bit more what they are? In case people are
Yeah, if you are a person working in the mindfulness field and you are using it like I am, where I'm sort of bolting it on to other services as well to make it more holistic, I can help you to create your own talks, to communicate more impactfully, to discover and share your story. And if you're already speaking the mindfulness language, then it's perfect because we will have a lot of synergy there. So it's anything to do with how you want to empower yourself and get your message out there. And by the way, if you want to leap in to a new level of awareness, just remember leap. I just created that, by the way. Leap. Just remember leap. Listen deeply, express compassionately. Attitude, bring a mindful attitude, and presence is key.
Oh my God, that's brilliant. You just need to do mic drop.
That's a pretty impressive mic. That's a pretty impressive mic, actually. You don't want to drop that.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that episode? Oh, you haven't seen it? Oh my God. You'll find it even funnier if you've seen it. It's this episode where this little kid comes up, he tries to mug him, and he takes a knife out. He's like, give me your money. Like, you call that a knife? And he calls that a knife. And the kid's like, oh. Oops.
What was that show it was on in the 90s where the guy was like on the tube with this massive phone screaming? I forget what it was called.
Yeah.
It's like your mic, yeah. Hello.
It's not the 9 o'clock news. No, that was different.
Yeah, it was after 9 o'clock news. Yeah.
It was after the 9 o'clock news.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the 10 o'clock news. That's a rubbish joke. All right, we better go because there's another talk coming up now.
Yeah, great. Great to chat with you.
To calm down after this.
All right then. Cheers, Shamash. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Still there. I can still hear him.